Hello, my name is Michelle, and you're listening to Profit is a Choice. Every day, empowered entrepreneurs are taking ownership of their company financial health and enjoying the rewards of reduced stress and more creativity. With my background as a financial software developer, owner of multiple businesses in the interior design industry, educator, and speaker, I coach women in the interior design industry to increase their profits, regain ownership of their bottom line, and to have fun again in their business. Welcome to Profit is a Choice. Hey, Tracy, welcome to Profit is a Choice. I'm glad to have you here today.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here. Always love to talk about this with you.
I'm so excited because this is part of the Profit First success stories. And I know that you have been working with Profit First for a while now. So do you remember, when did you start it? What year did you start? How long ago?
Trying to think of that this morning. I was trying to think, had we been coaching for 3 years, and thinking it had probably been 5. But for the Profit First, maybe 2. And
Okay.
It may be longer than that.
I was thinking it might have been maybe 2.5, something like that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your business. What kind of business do you have today?
My business is Custom Creations. I'm a wholesale drapery workroom to the trade. I have been in business for 15 years this past year, located in Northwest Georgia. I have 1 employee. We work out of my home. And our mission is to provide the highest level of quality, service, and products from concept to installation to our designers. And we got a nice little thing going between the two of us.
Yeah, we always call her Jenny. Is just your employee. She's just amazing, and her accent is fantastic, right? Because she's from the UK. So
she's from England, and she is English trained, and she's amazing. She is more than an employee. She's a friend. She's family, and like they said, 2 heads are better than 1, and we are living it every day. I don't know what I do about her.
No doubt, she is amazing. Question for you: when you started your business, did you plan for profitability from the beginning, or did you go into it mostly as an expression of a passion to sew, or what were you thinking when you started?
I didn't plan for it intentionally, and I say that because my degree, as you know, is in Apparel Engineering, and I have a master's in quality assurance. And so I started out in the apparel industry, and so I was around. I didn't really have a passion for sewing, but I developed it over my years working in the apparel industry with my degree. And I was sewing for friends and family. And that just sort of grew. People started saying, I would pay you to do it. Well, then I realized how much I enjoyed it. But I really enjoyed, as much as I enjoyed the sewing, I really had a passion for the planning and the engineering side of it. So that all kind of went together, and that morphed into my business. But I'll say I didn't plan for the profit intentionally, in that I am an engineer. So working in manufacturing, I was in and around productivity studies, cost analysis. And so I was familiar with how to cost my product. So I maybe had a little bit of that edge going into it, even though I really knew nothing about running a business. So I did sort of cost my products from an engineering standpoint coming into it. And I knew I didn't really know what profit margins and per se to a level of detail I needed to, but I knew them generally enough to price that into my product to a certain degree. But I was not measuring it. I was not planning for it. Nothing like I'm doing with Profit First.
Okay. And so before you implemented Profit First, so let's say 3 years ago, what were you seeing in your business that made you even be willing to tackle Profit First, that made you go, you know what, like, I'm making money, or I'm not making money, or I don't know if I can pay myself? Like, what were you thinking, or what was happening at the time?
I'll call it, I was in the 3rd stage. I feel like my first stage is I was just getting jobs, sewing, and bringing in income. And I could survive. I could pay my bills. I could pay the light bill, my cell phone, and everything I needed to do in my family. And then the 2nd stage was, okay, I'm making a serious business out of this. And I got a CPA. And my husband always said, neither one of us are risk takers. We're both engineers. So very low risk in anything we do. So this is the riskiest thing we've ever done. as a married couple. And so he said, we need gauges for your business. You need, just like your car, you need gauges to see where you are. And so the CPA really gave us our first gauges. He taught me how to read my P&L, and he gave me some general guidelines, and I really learned a lot. He was very much for promoting and coaching small businesses. So that second stage, I started really looking at how my business was, how what I was doing was performing as a real business. And then I would say I was progressing into my third stage when I started coaching with you and really learning how to dive into the P&L and really learning how to gauge my business and how to look at the expenses and cost of goods and sales and how my products were structured and priced. So I'd say I was getting into the third phase, and that I wanted this business to be profitable. I wanted to see it making money on top of my salary and Jenny's salary. So I didn't really know exactly how to do that or how to plan for it.
Yeah, it's so funny that I love how you call it phases, but because it's true. At first we're just trying to get everything going, like who's our ideal client, how do we, what's our sweet spot, what packages do we want to offer, what services do we want to offer, like how are we going to do this thing? And then we move into, okay, now I need to make some money at it. So we start making the money. And I would say we do the cursory glance of, like you said, on the P&L, I know how to look at it. So you know how to look at it. You know a couple of maybe key indicators,
right?
But you still don't maybe know how to analyze it fully and make it work for you at that phase. So you know enough to start being aware. It's like, to me, looking at the gauges on a car, but not necessarily knowing how to fill up gas and change the oil. And okay, I see the tire pressure's low, but I don't really know what to do about that other than call somebody to say, you need to fix the tire pressure on my car, right?
That's right. Kind of
it's not knowing how to fix it, but you can recognize something.
Yeah, kind of like when you're learning to drive.
Yes.
And at that phase of the game, I was just learning that it was a real business. This was a real industry I didn't just make up because of something I love to do. And a lot of people in this industry have said that. And
I thought the same thing. I thought it was something I made up because I knew nobody else who did it. And I remember the first time I went online and I found like 20 people around the state of Georgia who did it. And Tracy, it was on the CHF forum. I invited them all to my house. Well, this was before people did, right? This was before people did that kind of stuff. This was back in like 2003, 2002. My husband was like, Michelle, what if you had just invited axe murderers to your home? I'm like, well, I'm just telling you in advance. So if you want to be here, you totally can be. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but, and that's when I realized it was a real business and people started coming. And that's when I started realizing that was probably my first glance through those conversations, Tracy, that what you're describing, many of us were struggling with, like, what is the real business? What does it really look like? Because we were not connected through the internet or anything like that in a broad way. And then you started hearing other people having the same financial struggles. Not that they weren't selling and bringing in an income. That was not the problem. The challenge was more of, how do I make a salary and how do I do all these other things with it? So kind of what you have described as this phase 3. So you were moving into phase 3 at that point. You said where you knew what to look at, you knew some key indicators, you knew this was a viable business. And what do you remember or at all what it was that made you go, I need that profit first? I mean, I'm sure I introduced it to a lot of people. I'm not saying you heard it just from me, but I know I did go out to my client base and go, hey guys, I got this great thing. And you had taken my pricing without emotion class. And we had talked about pulling our money and separating it in that course prior to the Profit First training. But what was it that maybe pushed you into going, I need to go deeper here?
I think really wanting it to be a viable business. It was several things. One of my designers, Beverly, is a very good friend of mine. Our kids went to school together, and she has been a bit of a business mentor for me as well, and owning her own business. And so we talk a lot about profit margins and profitability. And so I morphed from, like, we all start out, we just want to make that pillow and get that check. We just want to make those panels and know we have some income coming in doing what we love to do. Is I started seeing, I wanted it to be a really viable business. I wanted some profit so we could finish putting our daughter through college, so we could save for a wedding, so we could renovate our kitchen when she's out, so we can plan for retirement and do things for us. And I wanted that out of my business. I decided I did not want to go back to corporate America. And so I kind of figured if I was really going to make this a professional, sustainable business, I had to look at that side of the equation a little more heavily. And I wanted that. I mean, I do love to sew, but I don't just want to sew 40 hours a week. I love running the business. I learned to love running the business. I knew nothing about that when I started. And yeah, most of that's thanks to you. But I love the planning, the engineering. I love engineering the jobs and running the business in terms of, in those terms. So I wanted it to be a viable business and maybe something I could sell. I remember Judy Alcorn saying her daughter, who's a CPA, was advising her how to grow her business if she wanted something she could sell come time to retire. So that always sort of stuck in my mind too, as something I wanted to do.
I love hearing how you love running the business now, because I think a lot of creatives step into this thinking that we only have the creative outlet, but there is a huge creative outlet in running the business.
Yeah.
If we can step back and look at it that way, it's different. Maybe it's the same creative juices that allow us to design or to engineer or to fabricate it, right? It's
Right.
just we've turned it to the other side. And I love it when business owners come back to me and you weren't like this because you were an engineer, so you don't have a fear of numbers. But I do have a lot that come in and they have this huge fear of numbers, and then all of a sudden they go, oh my goodness, like there's like this creativity within numbers, even though there's like this solid part, there's this creative part, and then they start to really enjoy it. So I love hearing that you enjoy that.
The numbers don't have to be scary, and it's not like, a little accountant sitting at a desk crunching their little numbers all day. It's not like that. I mean, you're looking at your business, this thing you grew and you're maintaining, and I've got another person's lifestyle to maintain other than my own. So it does become an exciting part of it, which sounds funny.
Yeah, exactly. So do you remember did you have any fear before you jumped in? I know you said you're not a big risk taker. What do you remember that being like?
I think my biggest fear, and I don't know if I knew it then, but I can define it now, was that this might uncover things I might not want to know about my business. I don't think I could have known that going into it. I just thought, I really need to do this. I look at everything from a positive standpoint anyway. My whole family calls me Pollyanna. So I kind of thought, profit first. I'm going to make a profit. This is going to be good for my business. But the more I started digging into it, I thought, gosh, I hope this doesn't uncover areas where I haven't costed my product like I should, or my pricing is way off. My pricing structure is really not supporting my business like it should. I mean, I was very fearful of what it might uncover. Did I miss something along the way? Was my pricing structure not really what it should be to really support a profitable business? So I was a little afraid of that once I got into it and saw what it was doing for me. But I was so excited to see, and it was a little scary trying to figure out the process. And this because you helped me through it. And that's the thing I would want to tell people the most is the process may not be exactly how you read in the book or learn from your class, but you tailor it to your business. And soon as you helped me tailor it to my business, it was like this aha moment and the fear went away.
And I'll say this, we did uncover some things, but they weren't as scary as maybe you thought. I know you said looking back, you didn't recognize it going in, but I would tell you 9.9 times out of 10, something's always uncovered. And that's not a bad thing. And so I say that because I don't want people to come in and think, oh gosh, well, nothing gets uncovered. And it doesn't always mean that it's bad. Like your pricing strategy wasn't bad, right? You had done a lot of things well, but what we learned was there was so much more that we could do, or so many tiny tweaks. I don't remember with your business us doing any big overhaul, but we did a lot of day costing. We did a lot of, what does it cost to keep the lights on? What does it cost to keep the lights on with Jenny employed? What does it cost to keep with you employed? How do we charge out time and materials based on one person, based on two people, based on three people? You know what I mean? We were able to use all of it and make a bigger, broader plan than just, and again, we did mix a few things. Like you've had, in all fairness, you've had pricing without emotion. You've taken that class, which is really detailed pricing, which is not what's covered in Profit First or in my Master Your Profit course. But we had that basis. We went through understanding your financials so that you truly understood how to read and analyze all of the reports. Right. But we didn't we talked through that, but you took that class after you did the Profit First course with me. But in that, like you said, we were able to look at the specifics of your business it's just like anything. Everything's not one size fits all. It's a methodology. Right. And so once we learned that for your business, we could implement it this way, it kind of freed you up. How many bank accounts do you have open? Which ones do you have?
I have 4. I have operating expenses, which is my main checking account in my credit union. Then I opened up 3 savings accounts, which was for profit, owner's pay, and taxes. And I named them that online, so I know exactly what they are.
Exactly. And I love that because in my QuickBooks, I have mine named, and then I have the nickname that you can put on the bank accounts at the bank or at the credit union so that they match, and it's not, account 42637 and you're trying to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me this, how does it feel when it's time? I mean, okay, I know nobody likes to pay taxes, right? We can all get behind that, but we know we need to pay taxes. How does it feel when the money is there and when it's preserved properly?
And when you start talking about taxes, I need to coin a phrase that I've been mishelled in that, or something. I need to come up with something creative because I used to hate that. Oh my gosh, taxes are rolling around. Own my business. I'm going to own a big chunk of money. And there were years I did pay a big chunk of money. And there were some years I got some terrible surprises before my CPA helped me become an S Corp. But that's totally changed with Profit First. Not only is it fun to know you have an account for profit, it is such a relief to know your taxes are there. That may be even more fun than the owner's pay account, which gives you money, because come time at the end of the quarter for me to pay this chunk of payroll taxes, it's in my account. Yay, I get to pay taxes today. I'm going to go transfer the money, and there it goes, and it's not coming out of my operating expenses. Best day of my life.
You know what I love about it? And I mean, this sounds crazy. I don't even think I put the two things together until I was writing something up about Master Your Profit yesterday. And it was that quarterly we're paying taxes, right? For most of us. And we have saved that money if we're doing this Profit First. But we pay, and then we get paid with a profit distribution if we're going through that. So it's like we're paying the government, we're paying ourselves. I mean, like,
it's amazing. It was
amazing.
The most fun day. And then into the first, I think I implemented Profit First middle of the year-ish, really got going on it. So it was that next year when I went to pay my income taxes, and I said, oh, no problem, honey. Here, write the check. The money is in the tax account. Let me just transfer it over. It was awesome. And then knowing that every quarter I still got to take my own profit distribution, and it was all there.
And your salary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's funny because you think the salary is the most wonderful part because you actually have that money, and it is, but there's some level of huge relief knowing your tax money's there. You're not going to drain your operating expenses to pay your taxes, and you get to pull that profit and do some of the things that are so exciting to do with the profit. And then, it's the 3 greatest things that ever happened to my business.
So I remember when you wrote me back right after you were starting the Profit First course, and you had not yet even hardly gotten into the rhythm of allocations, but you had gotten into a rhythm of paying your bills on the 10th and the 25th. Yeah. And you wrote me an email. I don't know if you remember this. And you're like, okay, that alone changed my life. Because at the time, prior to, you were paying the bills as they came in. So you were in and out every day, here and there, potentially paying whatever vendor bills showed up. Yeah, and with Profit First methodology, we have you doing it twice a month, like either the 10th and the 25th, the 15th and the 30th. Even if you choose to allocate weekly or, bi-weekly or monthly, we still have you trying to pay the bills like 2 times so that when you get into, that particular mode, we call it time chunking or time blocking all the time. When you get into it, you do them all, you get up, you get out, you're done. Do you remember when you sent me that email and you're like, this just saved me so much time and efficiency?
I do remember it because it made such a huge difference. It gave me time. It gave me time back. I was trying to do this weekly all the time. And so I just went, and I'm still doing it 2 times a month. I go in, I do my accounts payable, my accounts receivable, and I allocate once a month at the end of the month, sometime between because I pay myself on the 15th and the 30th. So it kind of goes along with my paycheck. So my business stuff and my personal stuff kind of all go together, and it's real regimented. And I kind of tend to be that way. So sometime between the 30th and the 3rd or 4th, whenever I get to it, I do that. I reconcile my accounts, pull my P&L, allocate to all my accounts, and then I distribute from my owner's pay twice a month with my paycheck, because I just kind of have my stuff sort of compartmentalized like that. And then, of course, profit is once a quarter.
When did you really, can you remember when you really saw it working for you? The whole profit first, like, and the way that we had tweaked it for your business. I remember getting emails, but tell me that moment when you're like, okay, this is really working for me now. Because there was frustration at the beginning. And I'll say your frustration was the same that I see with a lot of people. Number one, it is a simple process, but it's not always easy. I say that a lot. The second thing is people quite often are trying to implement it exactly like the book says without taking their own business flow into account. And so then it feels very odd and stilted and like they're forcing it versus how does my cash flow? How am I flowing my business and how can I make it work? So when we got yours worked out in the way that works for, custom creations, what was the moment where you're like, okay, oh my gosh, this is working?
I would guess I was almost say 3 to 6 months in, because you're right. I went into it like an engineer. I'm going to do this exactly how it says to do it. And it was throwing me off. I mean, I'm a wholesale business and my numbers fluctuate drastically. So I may have big checks and big deposits come in all at once. And then those jobs may last 2 to 2.5 months. And then all my cost of goods may go out at the end of the month. And all of a sudden I go to allocate all my percentages and I don't physically have the money there. And I'm going, what's this mean? It's not working out. I'm not doing it right. And so, the biggest thing I want people to know is you streamline it and structure it to your business. And that's what you helped me do. I know you remember that, is we structured it to, you helped me simplify how to pull out the numbers, take out the salaries, and get to the percentages. I mean, it literally takes, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes. If you
Right. I remember you and a couple of others were like, I'm spending an hour and a half. I'm like, no. I said, if you're spending more than 15, max 30 minutes for the whole thing, like payables, receivables, profit first, allocations, just if you're spending more than 30 minutes, it's too complicated. We've got to be down in like the 10 to 15 minute bracket. That's when it's working for you.
Right. I made it too complicated, and I tried to follow the letter of the law. And you don't have to do that. And
that's your engineering brain, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I had that tunnel vision going. So once you helped me step back and look at the big picture, I understood, and I still do fluctuate from month to month. I mean, if I have, again, all those cogs going out in 1 month really heavy and I go to do my numbers, it doesn't all work out. I don't have that 35% or 40% that I want to put in owner's pay. So I always put my 5% in profit. I always put my 15% in taxes, no matter what. Even if it gets me, even if I'm putting no owner pay in there, if it's that tight of a month, which I haven't had in a long time, but I alter the percentage of my owner pay based on what's there. And so this month it may be down a little bit. So I just adjust that number. And then next month, when all the final checks come in and all the cost of goods have already been paid, I might can increase that owner pay a little bit that month. So it fluctuates, and I learn to, accept and work
to move with it. Mm-hmm. And that's why a lot of times it is about the percentages and it's about the flow over time.
Yeah.
Right. Which is why we also do distributions quarterly. And that's why some people have moved more to, especially in our industry, have moved more to a monthly distribution and allocation of profit first instead of the weekly or biweekly. It still can be done that way. But,
right.
Cost of goods is a big deal. That's one of the things in my course that we teach very differently that is not addressed hardly at all in the Profit First book, because we are, excuse me, many of us are very cost of goods driven, especially on the interior design side. So you get hit with major cost of goods at one time. They're getting hit with cost of goods all the time.
Right.
And if we don't know how to handle that, it can throw everything off because it shifts everything, right?
It does. And recognizing that that's happening and it's a natural cycle of your business helps. It is a relief. You don't worry that, oh my gosh, I don't have the numbers, I don't have the money there. As an example, I'm doing a whole house. She gave me, but we're doing it in 2 different phases. So she gave me the whole 50% deposit for the entire job in January. Well, we're installing phase 1 first week of March, and we may not install phase 2 until, I don't know, May. So it's an odd job that's being stretched out. So I got all that money in January. Well, I couldn't if I allocated it all, I'd be allocating a lot less in the upcoming months. So I had to sort of adjust knowing that. And I've learned to move with that, move with the flow.
That's exactly right. And that's one of the exact topics that we cover in Master Your Profit is what to do with those COGS when you're really being paid a retainer fee. You're really being paid way in advance. And you haven't actually earned that money until you have actually delivered the product. Then that money has been earned, or when it's in process, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
But you're right. If you had allocated that money in January, then you're going to struggle the rest of those months knowing where that money's, how it's going to be paid, and how, you know, especially if it covers cost of goods for a second set of items that have not yet been purchased. You just can't allocate too early.
That's right. And I did, I had a additional savings account at the credit union called COGS. And I did this when I was last year, and I'm trying to work through this process, and thought, okay, for those special jobs like that, I may take that money and put it over into COGS. But I've not ended up using it because it was just more steps. I learned to analyze it and work with it and know it and just
pull it out of your calculation.
Instead of just trying to shift money here, there, and everywhere, it got to be too much. So I just simplified it and just know it and move with it.
Okay, great. So tell me, or tell all of us, what are some ways you've been able to use your profit?
That's been fun. The first few profit distributions I used to pay some debt. That was nice. I used it to save for a trip to England and Scotland last year. That was awesome. I've used some of it to give my employee a bonus at Christmas this year. That was so much fun. I mean, she deserves that and so much more. So that was so rewarding. And now I'm using it to save for a trip to the Avocados this summer. So also I bought a machine in there with one of the first couple of distributions. We bought a new machine. So it's so fun.
And it gives you a freedom that I don't know that we even realized we didn't have. You know what I mean? It gives a freedom, like you said earlier at the beginning of our talk, that it's not, is the money at the very beginning coming out of operating expenses? Yes. But by taking it out and saving it to the side and looking at it, right, as having less in operating expenses, it forces the business to live on what the business can earn. And that money is already accounted for. And it's over to the side. I remember you guys didn't you go to the Bahamas one year and you were able to pay the family payment for you all to, wasn't that? Yeah.
That was one of my first trips I saved for. And I'm glad you bring that up because it's freeing in so many ways, but before Profit First, you're right. I was pulling money out of the business, same in a similar way that I am now, but it was willy-nilly and it was all over the place. And I feel like now looking back, I was sort of robbing the business.
Yes.
And so once I implemented Profit First and I have these structured strategies and these structured numbers, it's making me live more conservatively with my business and my personal life. It morphs over into your personal life. So
I was getting ready to ask you that. It makes you intentional about how you spend the money. So I was getting ready to just ask you that same thing because I see it happen all the time. Like people will start looking at the business and then they go, oh my gosh, like I could do this in my home. I know my husband and I have done the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University in our home, which is very similar to the Profit First in the business. How have you seen kind of that intentionality and that allocation, if you will, process, that planning for how to spend the money? How have you seen it move over into your home budgeting and planning?
It's been a really good positive effect, and it has made me run my business better because things are more structured. I feel like I'm not robbing my business and just sucking it dry. And a lot of people do that. Oh yeah, you're in business for yourself. You can make a lot of money, which I haven't really learned where that saying came from, because that's people who are just sucking the business dry. And I realize now I've got a structure to it. I've got operating expenses and profit and taxes, and everything's accounted for and put in its appropriate bucket. And so it's made me live more structured. I mentioned that I pay myself through payroll the 15th and the 30th. So I also allocate a specific amount from my owner's pay the 15th and the 30th. Part of it goes into a savings for my IRA. Part of it goes into the savings for that trip we're taking this summer. And then the other part goes into our college account. So it's going to its structured places. So it's helped me structure my personal life. And so when I'm looking at how to chop expenses and reduce expenses in my business, then I'm going over here and looking at where can I reduce them in our personal life? Can I go over here and talk to the cable company because that's astronomical? And so it carries over into your personal life, and it's great. It's a relief. It's freeing, and I'm even starting to preach about it to my daughter and her boyfriend. I've mentioned your name, I don't know, 10 times in the last month, trying to really take these principles and help my daughter's boyfriend. He's kind of on his own and supporting himself, and helping him sort of look at how he can put these buckets of money so he can structure his life and get out of college. And so it's so great.
It's so funny that you said that. So my oldest son has a finance degree, and he also has an engineering degree. And when he graduated for the second time with this finance degree and was getting ready to start his full career, kind of position last May, before he started it, we sat down outside on our porch, and I went through the Dave Ramsey financial piece. They have one for college students, by the way, that you might want to consider, or for them young adults that might be helpful for them, because it is the same kind of thing. And there are a couple of apps too. There's YNAB, You Need a Budget. And there's another one by Dave called Every Dollar. And it is an online app where you can tell every dollar where to go. I'm pretty sure every dollar might be free. Or there may be a paid version and a free version, but YNAB, You Need a Budget, and Every Dollar. So those are some that we can use internally in our home budgets to do the same kinds of things. But I sat down with him, and I'm like, I know you have a finance degree, and that's talking finance and all these big things, but I want to talk to you about what this looks like in the home. And then I showed him my business. I showed him my P&L. I showed him my bank accounts. I literally gave him a view in. And then my husband and I talked to him about, and here's how we do it in our home as well. So here's where we have this account and this account and this account. And it's okay to have multiple accounts. You just need to know how to keep up with them. So I love that you are taking those same things and giving them skills for moving forward.
Well, I think young people will grab it and embrace it and do it if someone shares with them,
Right. I mean, they used to teach this in school years ago, and our parents knew this.
I know.
Because there were no credit cards. They didn't have all this ability to overspend. Like you can only spend the cash that you had, checks and cash, and they both came out of the account. So you had to live within a cash basis, and that's just not what we've been doing in the last few years.
They don't teach that much in school anymore. My daughter has even said, why don't they teach some basic personal accounting in college, life skills. And so they'll grab it and latch onto it. But if you're willing to share those numbers of what things cost and how to get there. Exactly.
So Tracy, I really appreciate your time today. I was going to ask you what your next big profit goal was, but Abacus Island sounds pretty profitable and like a lot of fun to me. I'm thinking I might want to be a stowaway in your luggage.
It's going to be fun. We've got 4 couples going. It's going to be a blast. But on the more practical side of life, we one of my next profit distributions is going to go towards a set of stairs. So when you come down the driveway, there's a grassy hill to the fence to the gate. And then once you get in the gate, there's a walkway that goes all the way around. So we need to bridge that gap. So it's really easy to access the entry of my business. So the next is some concrete stairs, which sounds crazy, but it's exciting.
And you've got the money to pay for it. And it's going to make it easier to get to you without trampling through your home.
Exactly. And going, sliding down the hill.
Yeah, that's not good with expensive fabric, is it? So, Tracy, if you had anything that you wanted to leave the listeners with about either Profit First, the Master Your Profit course, any of it, what would it be?
It is not difficult. It is not scary. You can tailor it to your business. You absolutely need to tailor it to your business. Keep it simple. It's very freeing, and it will enlighten your business and your life.
I love it. Tracy, thanks so much for taking time to talk with us this morning and sharing your experience with implementing Profit First in your business. And I'm happy to say you're a Profit First success story.
I'm excited to be one. Thanks, Michelle.
You're welcome. Take care.